Welcome everybody to today's webinar, 5 Steps that Instantly Increase Your CELPIP Speaking Scores. My name is Abigail Kingswood and I work with partners here at Canadavisa, and I'm very excited to have you all here today. This webinar is going to start with a presentation from our guests at CELPIP, and then after the presentation we'll move into a question and answer period, giving you the opportunity to interact with our guests. Many of you did submit questions prior to the webinar, and we're going to try to get through as many of those as possible, as well as questions that you ask throughout the presentation. If you put your questions in the chat, we have our moderator going through those questions and adding them to our sheet. So I'm now happy to introduce our guest speakers, Yvonne Petrov and Anna Baxter. Yvonne supports the language assessment mandates of government, legal, and regulatory bodies, as well as academic institutions. He previously served as an account director and manager of academic relations for Prometric's English language portfolio and has held various roles in EdTech and experiential learning. A graduate of the Monk School of Global Affairs, he continues to consult on interdisciplinary research with a focus on citizenship, diaspora studies, and migration. Anna, also joining us, is the Manager of Business Development for Prometric's language portfolio, supporting the global expansion of both CELPIP and CALE. With over 20 years of experience in English language teaching and assessment, she has worked with governments, universities, and immigration professionals to enhance pathways for newcomers. A proud second-generation Canadian with Ecuadorian roots, Anna is dedicated to building partnerships that help people achieve their study, work, and immigration goals. We're very happy to have you both with us today. And with that, we will move into the presentation. Just one quick reminder that the chat is public, so please don't share any personal information, as that will need to be removed. So I'm now going to pass off to our presenters and pull up the slides and get into the presentation.
Thank you, Abby. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us. It's really a privilege to connect with all of you. Very grateful for the opportunity to do this on a regular basis with our friends at Canadavisa. So we're going to be talking about some of the proven strategies that we at CELPIP, in conjunction with our test development crew, have kind of identified throughout the years that are going to give you a boost in your speaking section for the CELPIP test. One thing that I will say right off the bat is we have all worked literally with thousands of candidates throughout the years. So a lot of what you're going to hear today is based on the experience of many other people who have gone before you. And again, as Abby mentioned, we're kind of both first and second generation immigrants ourselves. So we are very familiar with the vicissitudes and the difficulties that people face as they try to improve their scores. We'll briefly focus on CELPIP and remind people what CELPIP really is and what kinds of outcomes you can expect with a CELPIP score report in Canada, Australia, and in licensing and regulatory applications. We will briefly look at the speaking section itself, which is the focus of what we're talking today. And then going into what makes the speaking section challenging, what are the things that we've heard from our test takers, and finally, what are the kind of 5 succinct strategies that we can recommend to you to instantly improve your score. Broadly speaking, CELPIP is accepted by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada as proof of language proficiency for permanent residency. It's also accepted by the Australian Office of Home Affairs for visa applications. It is also accepted for PGWP applications. For those of you who are in Canada, you may be familiar already. These are post-graduation work permit applications that folks can apply upon graduating from a post-secondary institution in Canada and gain acceptance into the program to stay within the country upon graduation. It's also accepted by numerous professional organizations. The list is very, very long. We've only got like 2 here on the screen. And importantly, there is a version of the CELPIP test, which is LS, which stands for listening and speaking, And this is accepted for proof of language proficiency for Canadian citizenship applications. So for those of you who are joining us already in Canada, who are well in the process of gaining a permanent residency, are now applying for citizenship, the speaking section here is the strategies that we propose for elevating your speaking score are going to be pertinent to you as well for those of you applying for CELPIP LS. As we mentioned earlier, I'm super excited to see all the people that are coming through various places, including most recently France. We have more than 190 test centers already in the world, and it's very important to note that for the purposes of immigration applications to Canada, you can only take the CELPIP test at a test center. So always check our website to ensure that you know which test center is available to you in your vicinity. But again, it's a vast and growing network. Again, and all of the test centers are always updated on the website. Everything that we will talk about today is going to be rooted in the alignment of CELPIP with the Canadian language benchmarks. The Canadian language benchmarks are effectively a framework designed by the Canadian government to ensure consistency of rating and alignment of scores for all language assessment results throughout the country. And this is not necessarily just for applying for various immigration or academic purposes. It's also to align language proficiency in various study situations as well. In other words, whenever you get to a program that is trying to elevate your overall speaking proficiency, you will always be aligned to the CLBs. And the reason why we're showing this right now is so that you get a sense that CELPIP is directly aligned with the CLB levels. In other words, a speaking rating of 7 on the CELPIP score report directly correlates to a CLB level 7. You don't have to do any other kind of wondering what the actual scores mean. We will give you the score that pertains exactly to the CLB level that is required for the purpose that you are applying to, that you're putting on your application effectively. And in so doing, when we talk about increasing scores, we will always talk about increasing scores directly in the CLB level. So if you are, assessing yourself as a 5 and you want to go to a 6, this is the framework that you need to reference at all points. Very broadly, the CELPIP test, if taken in Canada, is $290 plus tax. The CELPIP LS is $195 plus tax. If you're taking the test in other countries throughout the world, the pricing will vary, and it will vary depending, it may be within $10 to $15 to $20 difference in the Canadian equivalent, but please check that and ensure that you know what you're paying. Very important for what we're discussing today is to note that the CELPIP test consists of 4 sections. We will be focusing on the last one, which is the speaking section, but don't forget that you also need to prepare for the other ones. And so listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And also for the CELPIP LS, as I mentioned earlier, listening and speaking. The assumption being there that if you've been in the country for a certain period of time, then you've got the other sections already down pat. Now, before we move on, the speaking section, 15 to 20 minutes in length. Some tasks are going to be text only. Some tasks are going to have a text and an image. In other words, you will be prompted to describe something that you're seeing on the computer screen. Each task has preparation time and speaking time. It's important to know how to structure your preparation time. So that's part of the reason why we're showing this today. Preparation time and speaking time, very different than each other, but critically important for the overall success. Responses are recorded and rated later. This part is also very important because CELPIP is a test that you can conduct in one single sitting. In other words, you can do all 4 sections at the same time, and you don't have to schedule your speaking appointment at a later date. Secondly, because responses are recorded and rated later, you are not necessarily speaking to another person on the other side of the screen, and therefore, for those of us who might be a little bit apprehensive when they're reading somebody's body language, for instance, and then in turn that changes the way we answer a question, you don't have to worry about that. It's an easier, more intuitive, less apprehensive way of rating your speaking section. And finally, I will read some of these here on the screen because I want to give you a notion of what CELPIP really is and what the specific speaking section stands for. You notice that the tasks revolve around giving advice, talking about a personal experience, describing a scene, making predictions, expressing opinions. Notice that none of these pertain to summarizing an academic article in biochemistry, right? So it's important to note that the answer to the question, how do you improve your speaking scores, lies within the format of the test. These are all daily interactions. So anything that you can do to pay attention to those daily interactions, if you're in an English-speaking environment, or creating small pockets of English-speaking environments if you're not in one, is going to go a long way in improving your score. But what are the challenges that we have identified over the years? I'll pass it on to Anna to kind of walk us through there and suggest some of the potential improvement strategies as well.
Thanks, Yvonne. Well, I'm actually quite excited to be talking about this today because these are challenges that many of us face, not only in a speaking environment, but also in general. In daily life, we come across a lot of these challenges. And so being able to talk about it for the first time here, I feel that it's such an important topic that sometimes we don't really mention as much. And when I usually talk to test takers about the CELPIP speaking or speaking in general, many of these struggles that we hear are quite familiar. People might say, well, I don't know what to say after 30 seconds, or I get stuck on grammar and vocabulary and then end up losing my ideas, or I get nervous and my mind goes blank. And so this happens to many of us. When we're put into a certain situation, if I'm going to tell you, okay, talk about your favorite experience, you've got 90 seconds, go. And that is pretty tough to do. So this is a normal situation, and you might have to be speaking under pressure. And so these are some practices that you can do at home. We're going to talk about the right strategies and obviously the challenges that come with this, but know that these challenges can actually become strengths. So today we're going to look at these 5 key areas. We're going to talk about time pressure, thinking quickly in English, speaking naturally, nervousness, which is a big one for me as well, and managing vocabulary, ideas, and grammar. So these are going to be practical skills that you're going to carry on every day, whether it's at work, in school, daily conversations, in a test environment. So we're going to go through these and we'll have some opinions. Obviously, my colleague will also jump in with any ideas that we want to share. The first one is probably one of the major ones, because this is going to be timed. So every section will be at least 60 seconds to talk, and there's only 2 tasks, which are tasks 2 and task 7, which you will talk for 90 seconds. So one of the biggest challenges here, obviously, is time pressure. So you'll have either 60 seconds or 90 seconds to respond, which can feel like a long time. When you're having a regular conversation, 60 seconds is really short. But when you're doing it in a test environment, that can become pretty long for some people to start thinking about something on the spot. And so what we're trying to do here is, when you're practicing this, one of the best things that you can do is to record yourself and also be aware of the time. Because a lot of people, when you're talking, you're not aware of what 60 seconds actually feels like or what 90 seconds feels like. So if you're practicing ahead of time, then this will gradually become more comfortable. So when you are recording yourselves, I always say start with baby steps. Don't record yourself for a minute. Record yourself starting off with 15 seconds. It's short, it's easy. And these are some samples as well, like you're starting off with 15 seconds, and then you're gradually building up to 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then eventually 60 and 90 seconds. And the point of all this is just to get comfortable with the times so that you're not shocked on the day of the test. And the goal here is not to speak as fast as possible or too slowly, but to find more of a natural pace so that you can deliver a clear, complete idea with the time limit that you have. And so one of the at-home exercises that you can do is one is called the daily 1-minute challenge. But to get there, start off with 15 seconds. So basically what you do is you pick any topic. It could be about breakfast, your favorite movie, about today's weather, and then you'll talk for, to start, 15 seconds. So if you're talking about the weather, it's sunny, it's warm, there's a little bit of wind, that's enough. You don't need to be saying complete structured sentences. You can just say phrases, short sentences, just to help you to be comfortable with that, especially while you're recording yourself. A lot of people don't even know what their voices sound like when they record themselves, and that also makes them nervous. But it's to get comfortable with it. And the other one is to have a topic jar. So write down all these different topics, but make sure they're daily topics. So if you're talking about the weather, as I mentioned, public transportation, maybe friends and family, daily routines, hobbies, all these are relevant in the test. And so write down different topics on a piece of paper and then randomly take one out and do this every day. Just a few minutes of daily practice will come a long way, and it'll make you feel comfortable thinking on your feet. You're controlling now the clock because you're setting a time limit. And this is what we're looking for in the test, that we're not actually looking for perfection. We don't want a perfect sentence, a perfect vocabulary word. What we want is you to have more fluency, more structure, feel confident, and start off with simple ideas. And then while you're practicing all these topics, this is going to help you for the next topic, which we have right here, is to help you to think in English. So these strategies here are ways of being able to quickly think about something in English without having to translate in your own language. I think a lot of us, we all speak 2 languages. I myself speak Spanish. And if I'm speaking Spanish, which is not my first language, I sometimes want to translate. But if I'm having a regular conversation with somebody, you have to be able to produce on the spot. So this is what you need to be comfortable with. And one thing to do is you can do daily observations. Like just be observant, walk outside, describe what you see in English. Don't think about it in your own language. I can say the bus is coming, the sky looks cloudy, the child is eating ice cream. So just look around you. What can you see? You can label objects, you can describe actions in English, but keep it simple. Short, direct sentences, nothing too complicated to start. Then later, once you get comfortable, then your ideas, additional ideas will flow. You'll connect ideas, you'll make it more organized. And then the next one is probably one of my favorite. This is, I'm going to allow Yvonne to talk about because this is one of his favorite expressions. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
So the reason why we recommend this strategy, slow is smooth and smooth is fast, is the following. It kind of ties in with the way I approach my own speaking challenges in French, for instance, is what I'm going through right now. And that is, to Anna's point, you're not building vocabulary right now, particularly if you are about to take the CELPIP test or any other test, and you need a score that's pertinent to your outcomes, and you want to increase your speaking score specifically, and you have a month or 2 months. Vocabulary is built over the course of many years. For those of us who've been learning other languages, we know that that's the case. So the trick here is not to build vocabulary. The trick is to use your existing vocabulary to describe immediate circumstances in your environment. And why we say slow is smooth is fast is because as you're driving, for instance, and you have a podcast in the language that you're trying to, let's say you're learning English right now for the purpose of increasing your speaking score, listening to a podcast while you're driving and going home and trying to very slowly explain with your own words to your partner what you just listened to. It's a slow, deliberate process which builds neural pathways and trains your brain to use your existing resources to describe, not memorize words, but describe the environment with your available resources. And you do this slowly and deliberately, it becomes smoother as it goes, and smooth becomes fast on test day. A month can make a difference. Take it from me.
Absolutely. And I love your interpretation. I think for me, I'm always thinking about drinking coffee. Like, don't rush it. If the coffee's too hot, you're not going to drink it all at once. You're going to take small sips. We let it settle. And then once you finish, you feel comfortable. It's enjoyable. So that interpretation is very similar to speaking. You have to take it slow, take it calm. Your ideas will come out smoother. And in the end, you actually will be speaking faster, more naturally. So at the beginning, just take your time. Don't rush it. And then later on, you'll feel more comfortable speaking a little bit faster. The next one we have is shift your internal dialogue. So this one basically means narrate your day. Talk about your day. I'm chopping onions right now. Next, I'll add garlic. So just by doing that, and if you're alone, if you're at home or if you're walking, you can say it out loud or think it. If you're just taking a walk or you're commuting to work and there are people around, think about it. Just narrate what's happening in your day. And you can talk about it silently or out loud. So that's a great way to practice as well. And then we have daily activities. So for this, again, you're just talking about routines. I'm washing the dishes, the water is warm, the soap smells lemony, things like that will help you to continue practicing thinking in English. So the next one is thoughts and opinions. So you express small opinions naturally. Or if you're listening to a song, for example, you might say, oh, I like this song because it makes me happy. Or I think morning walks are better than evening walks because it feels fresh outside. So there's a lot of things that you can say to practice. So when you're doing these routines, think about that. And this will help you. As well as the last one we have here is short stories. As Yvonne mentioned, maybe summarize what you've heard in the podcast, summarize maybe what you heard in the news, summarize your events from the day. Today I went to the park, I saw children playing, and someone was walking their dog. So things like that will help you. And these are some samples as well to visually see the difference while you're practicing. And again, I mean, these examples, they're clear examples, but it's okay if you're making mistakes when you're talking. It's okay to not know every single vocabulary word. Again, as Yvonne mentioned, it's more to get comfortable speaking in English. And another one could be also even talking to yourself in English. So these are all these things that you can do. And at home, well, You could probably practice all these at home as well. But we'll go back to what you can do at home. So create English zones. So create areas where you are comfortable speaking English. So again, if you're commuting to work or if you're cooking or walking, think in English. Create those English zones. Or if you're in your car driving, think in English, listen to podcasts, surround yourself, obviously, in English. Even if you have to change your apps to English, listen to news in English, all these things will help you eventually. And we already mentioned podcasts and things like that, but there's so many things that you could do. Even if you're watching Netflix, watch your favorite program in English. There's so many options now, especially online, YouTube. There's a lot of different things that you can do for this. And then the last one would be verbal check-ins. Ask yourself during the day, how do I feel? What am I going to do next? What am I going to cook today? So come up with these little things that you can do. And it's very simple to do. It just takes a little bit of practice, but once you keep doing it on a daily basis, it will come out naturally. Great. So let's move on. And all these samples, because this is being recorded, all these samples, you can go back and read them. So you could see all the differences and the gradual progression as well. So the next one here talks about, speaking naturally. Now, speaking naturally is what we're doing right now. We're using intonation. You can hear my laughter. You can hear you can hear my voice rising, lowering. All that is very important. What we're trying to do, especially when you're being recorded, we don't want to hear something monotonous. I don't want to say, well, my name is Annabella, or I am here to tell you how I feel, and this is the way. We don't speak like that. We use a lot of intonation. We want to make it sound as natural as possible. And the best way is doing it with all these devices. I'm talking to you naturally right now, and I can't see you. I don't know who I'm talking to. But this is the idea. You are talking. You're imagining that you're talking to a friend in front of you. You're imagining there's a family member in front of you. So you're having these conversations and you're making it sound natural. And as you can see, if you could see my hands, I love talking with my hands. That makes me even sound more natural. So this is what you can do. Even during the test, use your hands if you have to. It'll come out more natural. So one of the things that we try to encourage you is to communicate. Do not memorize. Memorizing phrases is not one size fits all. It's not one phrase will be great for every single question, or you're memorizing a response that might not be quite what the question is about. So try to come up with natural responses and without memorizing. So a lot of the things that you can do in everyday English, if you're thinking about the response and you don't quite have it, you can use fillers. For example, if I say, in my view, in my opinion, I think that's a really good question. I never thought about that, and then you start talking. And so this will come out as natural vocabulary, natural fillers, because this is how we speak. Sometimes we don't have answers right away. And when people are asking us questions like, you know what? I never thought about that question, and then I start talking about it. And then I start giving a recommendation. So all these intonations, the stress words, all this will help when you're talking naturally.
And this is, Anna, sorry to interrupt, but
no, please.
I think it's important to note that what you're talking about, meaning and intonation, delivering meaning through intonation, rhythm, fillers, in my opinion, those sort of things. These are important markers of natural speech, which the raters look for. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. Vocabulary is super important. Obviously, you can't structure a sentence without basic vocabulary. But the task at hand here is not to have a very flowery eloquence in vocabulary. The task is to showcase natural cadence of communication, and all of these things help. The fillers, the taking maybe a breath when you start a sentence and then slowing down as it progresses, those things would matter more, and we get those questions a lot. They would matter more in conveying to the reader that you are a proficient speaker rather than using some convoluted terminology or trying to memorize new words.
That was brilliant. Thank you. Now, if you're practicing at home, like things that you can do, role play with a timer. You don't need to do it in front of a person. You can do it in front of a mirror. You can just imagine that you're talking to someone, but speak. You can speak nonstop for 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 60 seconds. But again, pick a situation, maybe giving directions, ordering food, explaining a recipe, all these things just to help you with the flow, with the natural rhythm, rather than trying to focus on the perfect grammar or the perfect sentence structure. It's more being comfortable using the language in a natural way. And so the other one we have is daily speaking routines. That's another one. You can add fillers so that there's no hesitation. So if I say I'm making coffee right now, next I'll answer a couple of emails. So now I'm starting to add these filler words just to help so that when they're talking, there's no pause in between. And so this is going to really help you with the test. And the other one is shadowing practice. So you could choose like a short English video and you can repeat what they're saying just to help with your intonation. So many people might not know this program anymore, but in the past, when I used to teach way back when, we used to use a lot of Friends, the series, and they had so many great vocabulary words. They had a lot of intonation. And so just repeating what they're saying, just shadowing them gradually becomes a bit more comfortable. Even if it sounds funny, if it sounds exaggerated, that's okay. But it builds fluency and natural rhythm. All right, so let's take it to the next one. Now, the next one is nervousness. Oh, this is me. I think I get nervous all the time. But there are ways to manage this. And so when you're nervous, I mean, there's so many things that you can do in general to help with your with the test. But some of the things that we recommend is reframe the test. So don't think of it as a performance. Think of it as you're talking to a friend, you're talking to a colleague. So again, I'm repeating a lot of this, but make it more like real life English. So this is what we're trying to do. Imagine you're talking to people like this. Especially nowadays, we use so much technology, all these devices like laptops, your phones, your tablets, and you have conversations with people using these devices. So get comfortable with it. Do the same thing. Imagine you're talking to somebody using this device. So the next one is controlling your breathing. Sometimes when we get nervous, we end up talking and talking and talking, and then we might not even make sense. And then I just start saying things and I don't know what I'm doing. That needs to be controlled. Even before speaking, inhale a few seconds, and then you can calm yourself a little bit or steady your voice. And then that will help you to communicate, to give your response. I don't know if there's anything, Yvonne, that you would like to say, because I know you like to do a lot of meditation and focus on breathing.
It's the only thing that I would say here is that notice that everything that we're talking about, folks, are strategies to help you perform on test day, but also meaningfully increase your speaking ability. And why I say there are two kind of separate things, because this speaking section tests everyday interactions, it's important to pay attention to our daily interactions. So the moment you start there and the moment you kind of record yourself, as we suggested in the beginning, you begin to remove the apprehensions that are associated with a test date, which is that very important first point here, reframing the test. The moment you show up to that speaking section and you approach it as a conversation with a friend, again, notice it's not that your vocabulary has suddenly increased and you're going to be super eloquent. It's how you approach the task at hand. So that's part of the reason why we keep repeating reframing as opposed to learning and memorizing. It's reframing what the task is asking you to do rather than memorizing new words.
Yes, that's great. And also going into the next point there, focus on communication. This is very important because we want you to focus on that and not the grammar. A lot of the times anxiety spikes when learners are wanting to be 100% correct. They want this perfect sentence structure, this perfect response, using the perfect vocabulary. But what we're trying to emphasize here is clarity, coherence is better than perfection. Because in the end, if you are able to communicate, you are giving your message across, even if they're minor grammar mistakes, that's okay. So don't think about those things because that can actually influence you on the test. Another one would be positive visualization. So when you're doing positive visualizations, picture yourself speaking clearly, calmly, confidently before the test begins. Even if you smile, I mean, there's so many different tactics that you can use. Sometimes even that helps just to clear your thoughts and then begin. So all these mental rehearsals can help you with fear of the unknown, because you don't know what to expect sometimes or what type of questions you will have. But this will help. And
I
then
really
at
like
home,
this. Sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
I love this sample response over here because it begins with "let me think." So this is a perfect example of a natural expression that we see every single day. And again, this is the important part. That's what raters are looking for, right? Let me think. And immediately the associated apprehension or stress has kind of decreased for this speaker. Now the speaker is in thinking mode. Now they're kind of introspectively relaying something that comes from their own experience. And if you are in that mode, it's kind of very hard to get it wrong because your experience is your experience, and your task becomes to simply communicate it and let me think, or that's an interesting question. That sets the right tone, and that's the part that we're conveying to you folks here today. Focus on any of those scenarios and strategies that are allowing you to kind of calm down, take a breath, and speak from the heart, as it were.
And one thing also to note is that when you do have to speak, you will have time to prepare. So for every section, you'll have at least 30 seconds to prepare, or 60 seconds, depending on the task that you have. So it'll give you some time to think about what you want to say, organize your thoughts, and then you can start. So it's not just right away we're asking you to respond, but you will have a little bit of time to think about what you want to say. So that will also help with your response. And then for practicing at home, things that you can do, like small stress steps. We've already skipped the strategy. I'm just going to quickly go back to strategy number 4 before we talk about the other one. So you can practice like in front of a mirror, which I mentioned. And then for voice relaxation drills, you can do meditation, breathing, that always helps. And then background noise, I think this is one of the most important ones that I did want to mention, is that when you are practicing, put some music on. Put the TV on so that you can hear it in the background. So this will simulate the test conditions, or go to a coffee shop, because this will help you when you're having these responses, get comfortable with that environment, and that will help you in the test. And honestly, nervousness does not disappear, but with practice, it does become manageable. All right, so let's go into the next one. The last one is about vocabulary, ideas, and grammar. And basically, this is just to train yourself to express clear, complete ideas without getting stuck on the grammar specifically or a specific idea or specific vocabulary. Again, just focus on fluency, coherence, instead of trying to chase perfection. And so some of the things here that you can do, obviously we have prioritized communication over grammar, which I just spoke about, organizing your thoughts. This will come gradually, starting off with the baby steps of 15 seconds, but then later on when you start having longer conversations, longer responses, that's where you're going to start using ways to organize your thought by saying, first of all, next, things like that will help you in the end. And then accept imperfection and move on. Don't worry about it. You made a mistake, just continue. And then again, drills, speaking drills, obviously. Pick a topic like we mentioned before, that's going to help. Paraphrasing drills. You could try to say things in a different way. So if I say I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I need to rest, all those are very similar. So these will help you as well to start thinking in English and to help you with different vocabulary words as well. And then the last one, recording and reviewing, just record your response. We've already said this, mentioned this many times now. So, but listen, did you have a good flow? Was the information going smoothly? Did you speak too fast? Did you speak too slow? So all that will help you when you're recording yourself. And we mentioned that from the beginning. And again, focus on clarity, not perfection. All right, so let's finish off then with the rest.
The one thing that I will reiterate once again, and this has been such a huge help for me, start recording yourself. You will be surprised at how you sound, but also, as Anna mentioned earlier, you would also understand the meaning of time. 15 seconds can appear a lot if you're doing it for the first time. But once you do it a few times, then that 1 minute is not so daunting. But I would highly encourage folks to start there and understand what 60 seconds of speaking looks like. Finally, CELPIP Path to Success. I couldn't recommend looking at this visual more. The reason being, this gives you, not just for the speaking section, but it gives you a ton of information, a lot of which is absolutely free and gives you preparation materials that many other test takers have gone through and have that's increased their proficiency for test date. The one thing that I will focus on here is when it says down here at the very bottom, additional CELPIP study materials, we are giving you a code effectively for the free CELPIP Accelerate Listening and Speaking. So for everyone that's attending, once you create a CELPIP account, you can directly get access to this incredible resource, which will focus specifically on the speaking section. And just as we've suggested to you to record yourself for the speaking section, there are also 2 free sample tests available to you as you register so that you can get a sense of what your other sections are scored at and start planning for your journey ahead. But those 2 are important, Path to Success and the Accelerate LS voucher code. Finally, these are some ways that you can get in touch with us, but the main thing that I would encourage folks to do is to create an account on CELPIP and start practicing as soon as possible. And with that, we're super excited to hear some of your questions as well. And back to you, Abby.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that super informative presentation. I think having the example questions and sample responses are great. So let's start with a question from the chat. Someone wanted to know, Yvonne, this is for you. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. What exactly do you mean by that? Can you it's
it's a concept that's found in various places, in sports and in business. But it stems from effectively focusing on smaller tasks and doing them really, really well. And by focusing on small tasks and beginning to do each one really, really well, the combination of all of these tasks becomes smoother, and therefore it becomes, so it's a larger concept that I use in my daily life, but for the purposes of language acquisition, it's exactly what it says. Focus on the smaller tasks. Begin with the recording of yourself for 15 seconds, then go to 30 seconds, to 45 seconds, so that once you get to 60 seconds, you already know your brain and the way it functions and how you're able to put things together. I hope that makes sense. It's a larger concept from other places, but it's super informative for language acquisition as well.
Very simply, take your time. Don't rush. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you. We're getting to learn a little bit more about you today, Yvonne, and your process. Okay, this is a pre-submitted question. Maybe, Anna, you can take this one. What's a way to make it easier to avoid getting frustrated when learning the language?
Doing a little bit of the techniques that we spoke about today will help. It helps manage things because sometimes we don't have the exact word. Even describing a word that you might not know in that original language is fine. So if you don't know the word spatula and you try to describe, even if I say like a flat spoon, you know, just something that will help with your description goes a long way because you're still trying to explain something, even if you can't recall the word or you don't know the word, but try to use other vocabulary words to help you to describe that. So frustration will come at the beginning, but gradually, once you do a little bit of practice, then it will be more manageable and not as frustrating.
Great, thank you. Okay, we talked about this a little bit with phrases, naturalistic phrases like "let me think," but is it appropriate to use informal phrases or slang in answers, or should test takers stick to more formal language?
I'll let Yvonne talk about this one. I think this one is.
I think you have something to say there as well. As we have shown here, we have shown samples of some informal language. But if you go to the CELPIP website and direct yourself to something called the CELPIP score comparison chart. So CELPIP score comparison chart, it's on the website. That gives you an impression of the kinds of answers that folks have submitted. And a lot of those answers that scored pretty highly are using informal language. So as much as I would say, by all means, try to utilize formal language as much as possible. In some cases, it may even, this is me speaking, in some cases, the task may be asking you to describe a picture at a fair. So formal language may not be useful to get you to explain what you're seeing on the screen because it's a casual day-to-day interaction. So my point is, yes, it's fine to aspire for formal language, but the purposes of CELPIP in itself is to assess your ability to speak in a day-to-day fashion, and a lot of that would be informal, such as we have seen in some cases here.
And something to note as well is that this test is a general test. It's not an academic test. So what you do on a daily basis, what you say on a regular basis, that's going to help you with this test.
Another question from the chat, and this is about a specific location, but maybe you can answer more broadly as well. Can I take an exam in Cape Town, South Africa? Or how can I find where I can take a test?
So maybe what we'll do is I'll plug it into the chat over here. On the CELPIP website, broadly speaking, you can always go to celpip.ca and look for the closest available test center for your specific location. But for South Africa, we do have a test center there, and I'm going to plug it into the chat here for our friends. What did you say, Cape Town?
Yes.
So it's in the chat, and super happy to know that there's folks interested in CELPIP there.
Great. And then another question that was submitted prior to the webinar, is CELPIP recognized worldwide?
Excellent question. CELPIP is currently recognized in Canada for immigration purposes, as well as post-graduation work permits, and most of the regulatory and licensing bodies that govern anything from real estate to engineering to medical and veterinary fields. It's also accepted by the Department of Home Affairs of Australia for visa purposes, and a bunch of regulatory and licensing bodies there as well. But those are the two countries where it's accepted. So if you're interested in immigrating to Canada or Australia, it's the test of choice, effectively. Super intuitive and vastly available in about 200 plus countries.
Great. Okay, maybe we can get to a couple more questions. So this was a pre-submitted question. Many test takers find it difficult to give clear and organized answers in the short time limit. What are practical strategies to help manage time and still sound natural and confident?
So we'll go back to time management. Again, when you are, the best thing that you can do, and I always recommend, is to record yourself. That is probably the ultimate way to understand how your response is, what you're saying, are your ideas clear, are they organized, and on top of that, being able to be comfortable with the time limitation. So again, start with short bursts. Start with, even if you start with 5 seconds, record yourself for 15 seconds. And then once you become comfortable recording yourself in a short amount of time, then gradually increase. But make sure, if you are preparing for the CELPIP test, do this in advance. Don't wait last minute. Many times people have to take the test next week, and it's a very short amount of time to be practicing this. So if you're thinking about taking the test next year, taking the test in a few months, start practicing now. Get comfortable with practicing now.
Okay, and then just we'll end with this question. This question was clarifying how to access this free accelerator course. Yvonne, do you want to go over once more how to make use of this code?
Mm-hmm. By all means. So once you create an account on CELPIP.ca, you can simply input the code as you are checking out. And maybe we will also input some of those links here in the chat for folks, but effectively it's just you just redeem it directly into your CELPIP.ca account.
Great. We can maybe share that out in the post webinar mail as well. Okay, thank you so much, both Yvonne and Anna, for that presentation, for answering so many questions. And thank you to everyone who attended and for being engaged in the chat. We will be sending out the slides and the presentation. You should get that in your inbox tomorrow. And if you're looking for more information on the other sections of the test or just how to prepare, please visit CIC News, and CELPIP has a ton of great information there on test preparation strategies. So thank you again, and we will see you at our next webinar.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.